You are listening to
Marty and the Breaux.
So I think it was probably a Wednesday or Thursday, and I was at work trying to call my brother, trying to call him on the phone, trying to reach him. I couldn't reach him, and I knew something was wrong. I knew that it wasn't good. I just had that feeling about it. So I told my boss, "Hey, I got to go. I got to drive to Houston." Now I'm in Austin at the time, so it's like 2.5, 3 hours to get to Houston. And when I get there, I knock on the door of his apartment. There's no answer.
Yeah.
Um, but let me back up for a second because this was like in the middle of the week, and on the weekend he had come to Austin. So my
Okay.
brother came up to Austin, and he stayed at the house where I owned the house, but my mother was living there. So that's where, if he came to Austin, that's where he stayed. Right? It's a house that you're familiar with too.
For sure.
Um, and he stayed that weekend. He brought some things to my mom, like some trinkets. He was always been suicidal. He talked about it mostly with my mom. He
So
never
wait,
had
this
conversations
is
about
your.
suicide.
I'm sorry. This is your older brother.
This is my older brother. Yeah, he was like 2 years older than me.
Okay. Okay. How long ago was this
Yeah,
again?
this was about 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So 10, 11 years ago, it's before I met you.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, yeah. So when he was in Austin, though, I remember very distinctly this one particular conversation that he had with me where I had come over to the house because I didn't live there. I wasn't my primary residence. I came over to that house and to get the lawnmower out of the garage or something. And my brother came out and we were standing in the driveway, and he was telling me, I'm not really doing so good. And whatever supply of money that he had, he was running out of money. And
Yeah.
he asked if he could come stay in Austin, to stay at my house with my mom. And I've always had a rocky relationship with my brother. I know you and your sisters are really close, and
Yeah.
my brother and I, there's lots of reasons for it, but we had always had a troubled relationship.
Mm,
I hated him for a while there. There were
mm,
times, when I really hated my brother. But then at the same time, you have that other strain of you that can't not love your brother. He's your brother. So it's a it's a difficult situation that I was in. But he asked me if he could come stay, and I kind of, I told him, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if that would really change anything for you. Basically, I just said, I guess I said no. I mean, honestly, I said no. Don't, I don't know. It's difficult.
yeah.
The other thing about it, I remember when he talked a little bit about what it was like to be him. And he was standing there. We were under a persimmon tree, and I remember him looking up, and the sun was kind of coming through the leaves. So, and he had this way of squinting one eye and looking out of one eye when the sun would hit him. And he said that he just, all his life, he felt like he just had this layer of unwanted crap on him, just shit all over him. And he raised, well, like his right hand up to his shoulder, and he kind of like he was pushing off a sleeve on off his arm, just to say, like, I just get it off me. I just want it off me. He did that on both arms.
Hmm.
And that, it speaks to the trauma that he experienced as a child, and all the pieces that led him to taking his own life.
Yeah.
Um,
Sorry
but
to hear that, man. Again, by the way, man. Uh.
well, it's a long time ago. The other part of the story that sticks with me, when I got to Houston and I knocked on the door, nobody answered. I didn't have a key to get in. The office was closed, and we called the cops. I called the cops a couple times. The second time they came, okay, now enough time's gone by. Now we can actually break in, and they broke in. I was waiting outside, and the cops busted the window and went in. And the one cop came out. His head was kind of hanging low, and he came up to me and he
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, your brother's in there." And
Yeah,
and
man.
the so the police had to make a report of it.
Yeah.
And the thing that I was sitting on one of the steps kind of near the doorway, just waiting for if they needed me to do anything, I sign anything. I didn't know how this works. hadn't been in that situation before. And one of the officers was talking to a neighbor, and the officer was talking to him in Spanish. The neighbor was responding in Spanish. And he was kind of asking him about my brother's death. Did he know him? Just kind of the basic questions, right?
Exactly.
And the guy, I remember him asking, I remember the neighbor saying in Spanish to the officer that previous weekend, he said, se fue a Austin y aún su familia no le quiere. And I know enough Spanish to understand what he was saying. And he was telling the officer that my brother had gone to Austin, that even his family didn't want him.
Damn, man. Yeah.
So that's just, it sticks in my mind. And one of the reasons to retell that story now is just before I met you.
Yeah.
But I want do you want to just introduce the episode? We're in episode 6.
Got you. Yeah, man. So this is episode 6. And we're dealing in trauma. If you can't tell, we're getting in some deep topics here, man. So yeah, man.
So we titled the episode "Damage That's Done," and we're just going to talk a little bit about how we've had challenges with our conditions in childhood and how they relate to how we navigate the world as adults.
Yeah, man. It's funny how it seems like everything's connected, right? Because yeah, man, I just have a lot of empathy for your brother. I've never met him or anything, and hearing that story, God, man, it kills me, bro. It's like, I don't know, man. Well, I guess.
Well, where it connects to you, and one of the reasons that I wanted to, get a chance to talk about it with you, because I don't even know if you know the full context of how my relationship with you has developed over time. So this was back. I wanted to jump to 2016. You had told in. Sorry, I'm probably a little watery here in my eyes.
Yeah, it's all good, man.
I almost dropped one. Didn't I? Damn.
Yeah, man, you held it in. You a gangster. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I was gangster. No, I didn't see anything. No, got no stains on the shirt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but in 2016, I think back to that time, and I didn't know you that well. I knew you, and I liked you from the organization that we both volunteered for.
Yes, sir.
And we had worked together. We'd gone into the Capitol together. We'd done some lobbying together. So I knew you, respected you, and liked you, but I didn't know you as well as I do today. Mm-hmm. But I remember in episode 2, you talked about an incident that happened in your neighborhood where the police came and surrounded you, and this was all around that same time frame. And I remember I called you one day and I said, I was actually upbeat that day for whatever reason. I called you, kind of upbeat voice. You typically don't answer, but that day you answered. And I said, how you doing, Marcellus? And you said, well, to be honest with you, not so good. And I think you have some interesting things were happeing to you in your life, and how you tried to get some help. And I just wondered if you wanted to share some of that.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know, man. It's a rough one to get into, to be honest with you too, man. Like at that time, this was around 2016, and towards the end of 2016, right? Towards the latter half of 2016, and
correct.
To be honest with you, or was it? No, it was the end of 2015 going into 2016.
Okay.
That's what it was for sure. It was the end of 2015 going into 2016. And at this time, like I was 25, and I guess trying to set it up, going back, setting up all the way to what is necessarily the problem is, like, I'm a felon, right? You know what I'm saying? Or a near felon, you can say. I got on deferred adjudication for a felony, which, anybody who knows is might as well have a felony, because it's, it still limits you to a lot of things. Having the driver's license situation, which I talk about in episode 2 and 3, I think, actually, right? I kind of touched on. Remember. Well, I touched on the driver's license incident on episode 3 for sure, and the fact that I don't have a valid driver's license, it's a very key barrier to upward mobility, and just I was really going through it at the time, man, because I just couldn't goddamn get ahead in life no matter how hard I tried, and and everything in society points to the problem's on me. It's me. I'm the problem. And to be honest with you, at the time I agreed, because if you remember, I was staying with a girlfriend at the time, and she it was one of those situations where it was relationship by necessity more than anything, right? You know what I'm saying? To be honest with you, I think if
Hmm.
she and I had a, was in a much better situation, we probably, or had, if we were, if all things being equal, we probably both would have been, in our own, still trying to, figure it out in our own separate, how, apartments slash houses, whatever, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure.
Right.
Yeah, even after I left with her, like I had to go move, whatever. So, what I'm saying? Like even after we left each other, we had to go, she had either move in with her homegirl or something, like, there was no real, moment to, grow, by themselves,
Hmm.
by ourselves, right? So,
Right.
with that being kind of the big issue, really, it bred this like environment for me where I was just really, I don't know, man.
Trapped.
Yeah, man. I couldn't figure. I couldn't figure out anything, man. I told you at the time I was working at Nigga Do's, and like I told you,
Right.
like yeah, working my ass off there, man. Not being able to, it
And
was
that's
like
the Papados in Houston. That's
yeah,
close to NRG Stadium for
yeah.
anybody unaware.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but so I'm working there, and what I'm saying, like I said, it was just a popularity contest. I'm ridiculously political. As you remember, I was pretty active at
Political
that
back
time,
then.
trying to
Yeah.
trying to freaking make a change. Nobody wants to hear that. Everybody's just kind of I'm looking at I guess a small quick story with that, like for example, they make us sweep the rugs even though there are vacuums in there, right? I'm saying you're not supposed to vacuum the carpet. You got to sweep the carpet, and also there are specific carpets that a server is supposed to use that were like 3 feet long. I'm 6'7", bro. It was just like I don't know, just the amount of like how frustratingly hard it was at times, you know what I'm saying, to like just do a bullshit ass job because, what I'm saying, a couple owners had, made, their decisions that, yeah, y'all have to use these small ass brooms, saying you cannot use the vacuums for whatever seriously, bro. I'm literally by the end of the night, we just
Yeah.
busted
They're
our ass. I'm
giving you
like,
these dictates that just don't make any sense,
and it's
and you don't have any
genuinely,
choice
yeah,
about it.
and I'm sick. I'm. It's not even like just a complaint. Tommy will understand. It's like by the end of the night, my back. I'm like, it's not okay how bad my back hurts. Like how much I gotta bend over and sweep. And it's just a lot of there was just a lot of kind of weird shit that's just I don't know. I like that's just at the job, right? So I'm going through that, and I just kind
Well,
of
I remember. I mean, can I ask you? I remember at the time you were recognizing your own mental health challenges, or you were reading something about bipolar, and you're like, that looks like, you were kind of learning about some things about your own mental health that were changing the way that you were thinking about it, and
yeah,
and
yeah.
you and
Well,
your own depression. You were recognizing your own depression maybe in a way that you hadn't really up to that point in your life. I don't want to put words in your
yeah,
mouth, but
yeah, no. To be honest with you, something I So I guess this is going back even further. Like this is really, I guess the awakening to like the fact that I might be crazy. Long story short, is it happened with my first love, what I'm saying? She
mm,
that breakup
okay.
is what really kind of, opened the floodgates to I got problems, you know what I'm saying? And it's just me looking back at the relationship, being honest with myself, being honest with, with everything that happened, and we're looking at it. I just realized like, God damn, I was terrible, crazy piece of shit. And I kind of, regardless of whether it was, nature versus nurture, whatever the fuck, right? If that makes sense, if that was, saying, regardless of what the reason was, the decisions I made happen and led to, saying the issues I had, which were, like I have like extreme paranoia about weird trust issues, just weird kind of, saying issues with my, with people and myself that that's all mostly, fabricated in my mind. I like to explain it by saying like I'm really good at connecting dots, and I also connect dots that aren't there, right? It's kind of how, a
If
good,
put in that awkward situation, I can
yeah.
see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I'm, that's kind of the realization I was having, and also, like I said, being locked up for 2 years. It's just a compounding of all these things, right? So, I was locked.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, I think, being locked up left me very. I kind of get very present in the moment because, like, in jail, one things you learn real quick. Saying when you get locked up, the old schools will tell you like, don't, you can't really think about the free world too much. Saying you got to keep your mind in jail or else you'll go fucking crazy. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the time, especially
Yeah.
if you don't
Mm.
have anybody out, if you don't have a lot out there, if you have like a girlfriend that hasn't hit you up, whatever, you can't really just be dwelling on out there because you can't even do nothing about it. You can't, so
Yeah.
on probation, like I could, I can't drive. So I had started kind of taken that worldview out here because I kind of really had no choice. Like I can't move around because I don't have a vehicle in Houston, which is anybody that knows Houston is too big to you can't you damn near die if you don't have a vehicle. There's just
Yeah.
there's severe lack of opportunity. So I would just really be stuck in one spot in my mind and one spot in life, right? Saying I kind of just kind of zeroed
Right.
in on this, honed in. And when I started to, get into politics, looking at a lot more of the issues and, expanding what, my mind about what's wrong, I had the realization that, not only am I crazy, but, it's, there may not be a way out, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm.
like I was talking about, like, I
So
started getting the
it's a
wolf pack.
hopeless feeling.
Yeah, man. Like, I know that, I'm saying, understanding, a lot of the mechanisms in place, or I can't, I don't own, you know, a lot, uh, um,
Like you were saying at one point in time that when you're in the midst of facing discrimination and racism and you're younger, you don't really know it. It's only later that you get out and you start to realize
yeah,
what
yeah, yeah.
explains your circumstances. And I think maybe this was a time in your life when all that stuff was starting to click into place and you were like, I'm screwed. I'm I'm really screwed here. This, that we've got a rigged system or in many different ways. I don't know
100%,
if
man.
that
Like,
was part of it.
yeah, yeah, no, like that was, like I said, it's all those things put together. The fact that, what I'm saying, me, the trauma from my childhood, saying trauma from, being in jail, just, this bullshit racist
Well,
ass system mixed with, um, all that shit compounded, and saying this quote unquote decisions I made led me to this point where I just came to the conclusion where it was like it's probably better it's if I have no choice, if I have to stay saying walking 4 hours saying to from work because the buses don't run, I don't have a car, what am I going to do? Saying I work the night shift at a bar, what am I going to do at 4 a.m. hit somebody up? Saying that's I can't do that. And when I do, it's just depressing when nobody is there to hit come pick you up, do this 2 hour walk, 4 hour walk home. Saying I was like, rather than do that, I'd rather just fucking
crawl up in a hole.
yeah, what I'm
Or,
saying, just
yeah.
let's take myself out of this fucking situation, like I don't know.
Well, at some point you decided to go to a clinic in Houston and try to get some help.
Yeah,
But as I recall it, that that did not work out very well at all. And
yeah.
I mean, you can explain it better than I can, but I think they really misdiagnosed you and gave you the type of medicines that were destined to send you in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
But you didn't know that at the time, so you kept taking them thinking it was going to make you feel better, and in fact, that downward spiral just
exactly.
accelerated at that
Yeah,
point.
man. Yeah, they call it like there's a whole thing about it being a cocktail, and you gotta saying find the right cocktail, the cocktail that's right for you, and there may be some merit to that, but like it's just it's not like like there's so many holes in the system, so much wrong with it's not addressing what I realized is it it was it's like
It's a band-aid.
it's a
It's a
band-aid,
band-aid
right?
anyway.
Yeah, what I'm saying, and it's not addressing the root cause of the issue. Like saying it's hard to the thing about this diagnosis or staying on meds is you have to be able to be consistent. If there are extenuating circumstances in your life that make it really hard for you to be consistent, like not being able to have not having reliable transportation, it's first of all it's impossible to stay consistent enough to try to work through whatever saying these cocktails until you figure out the right one that's right for you, and the
Hmm.
right band-aid that'll fit for you anyway. Saying it's not even
Yeah,
getting to the root cause of the issue that's causing the
yeah.
depression and
It
stuff.
right. We're gonna talk about that more in a minute. But I did want to kind of tie those, like my story with my brother and your story at that moment, because you were you were maybe not suicidal on those particular days, but you were definitely spiraling towards suicidal thoughts more and more. And I'm at a distance. You're in Houston, I'm in Austin, I'm a ways away. But when I called you that day and you told me I'm not doing so hot, there was something about that situation, something about that moment that, I had faced that situation with my brother at that point in time, 5 years earlier or so. where I knew my brother was in trouble, and he ended up committing suicide. He shot himself in that apartment in Houston all by himself. And that, that's the kind of thing that you think about and it stays with you. So when the circumstance with you sort of came in front of me, I told my girlfriend at the time, I said, oh, okay, I'm going to go get him basically. And I'm in Austin, and I got in the car. You had a flat tire at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I went over to the shop where I usually my mechanic, and he lent me a tire that was going to fit on your car. I put it in the back, and I drove to Houston and changed that tire. And I was like, okay, you're coming with me. And I remember though, you were really low at that point in time, and really
Yeah.
your depression continued even after you came to Austin.
Yeah, it all seemed hopeless, man. For me, like really, the more we talk about, the more I remember little parts of that. Like for me, the reason I don't know, man. With the tire was flat, like I told you, I was just going through that breakup, and it was the issue I've had is these codependent relationships where it's just like I'm trying to do everything I can. I'm already illegally driving. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get to and from work. My license my non-existent license is suspended, so I can't even get a license because the one that doesn't exist is suspended until the indefinite date. Whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just
Hmm.
really fucking complicated, and having to try to explain this to anybody knew I met, and saying we, like you said, we weren't really just super super close by this time, what I'm saying. So there's little, I think I explained that to you, but it's still something that's hard. It's something you have to like explain to somebody repeatedly for them to understand what the hell you're talking about, really, right? What I'm saying. And it was just all these all these factors adding up. I was just like I said, like it was just, I was definitely already suicidal by that time, what I'm saying, had been calling. Like I said, I decided to try to get some help by jumping on all kinds of SSRIs and whatever, right? What I'm saying, all these kinds of
Yeah.
different pills, because I was like I said, I understood from my first love that I think I'm batshit crazy personally, right? What I'm saying, people will tell you, no, don't say that, I don't, whatever, on all that, right? What I'm saying, I tend to make it easy, right? What I'm saying, society would call me crazy. Let's call me crazy. Let's do that. That's fine, right? What I'm saying, it's easy. It's it makes it easy for everybody to understand. And I don't,
Well, it is a bit of shorthand, but
yeah.
as I've come to know you, and as I've come to understand trauma in terms of my own trauma, the trauma that I've carried, how it's affected my life, I don't think of you or me as being crazy. I think as you and I having certain adaptations to our environment
Yeah.
that were useful to us as children, but when we come out and try to be adults, it holds us back in some pretty key ways, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, just all those problems, like it was just, it was just compounding for me and making me, realize that it's time to check out of here. Like I was planning on suicide by that point already. I was kind of, I didn't see a point to keep going. I don't know how else to explain it. You know what I'm saying? Like, like
Yeah.
and the way, I guess the best way to explain what went through my mind at this time was, it dawned on me that there's no way out of these situations I'm in, and I don't have any help. Does that make sense? Like, and what I
Hmm.
mean by help is, like it's deeper than just, like you were saying, I was on I was taking the SSRIs, and saying I was on these antidepressants, and
And
even
they totally took you in the wrong direction. So you started out needing help, and were slowly sort of sinking down to an even worse situation. It
yeah.
wasn't until later you got the corrected medicines, you got things corrected a little bit. You got off the one that was sending you in the wrong direction
Yeah,
and
man.
started
And
an upward spiral. But
it's such a, like, cause it would be like damn near like blacking out for like, when I was, like I go from 0 to 100, what I'm saying, kind of real quick. Right. What I'm saying? And it
yeah,
was like that whole,
manic.
yeah, real
Yeah.
manic. Right. And that whole little, so that whole stint was very, almost like a blur. Right. What I'm saying, I gotta, but it was real. It was fucking insane, man. And
Yeah.
I came to the realization even before like well, by the time I was on the SSRI, some of the stuff I came to a realization of, I still hold, strong, as some of the realizations I had.
Opinions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some of the opinions and some of the, and when at the end of the day, I think it's, there's a lot of link to, community and people's situation. Personally, I don't think, I think if things kept going the way they did, or if things even in specific situations, I am not against, suicide at all. Even coming out on the other side of that, I'm still like, yeah, no, I think that's still a viable option, given people's circumstances, and that depends. And like, we always talk about some controversial shit, and I have no problem with getting into some crazy shit personally. And I think, people should really think about it
Well,
more deeply,
yeah. Well, let me chime in on that because my brother Bill that I talked about, he this was also this was the last phone call that I had with him. So he killed himself in the middle of the week, and it was probably a Monday after he had left Austin, went back to Houston, and had made the decision, I guess, at that point that he was going to shoot himself. He talked to me on the phone, and he told me about an incident that happened when he was like 6 years old in the first grade.
Hmm.
He said he was in the classroom, and I don't remember if it was the first day of school or somewhere in the middle, but the teacher told the whole class something like, everybody clear your desktop and get your tablets out. We're going to do some writing exercise. Write your name at the top of the big chief tablet, or
Yeah.
whatever it
Yeah.
was at the time. And my brother was telling me that as she was giving the class these simple instructions, my
Yeah.
brother is 6 years old, 7 years old, whatever. He just kind of freezes. He freezes. He panics. He has a panic attack at 6 or 7 years old. Now he's telling me this story. Now he's whatever he was, 45 or something like this,
Yeah.
and just a day or two away from killing himself. But he's retelling this to me that he felt like that moment defined his whole life.
Damn.
That he was, it sort of set the tone for his whole life. That if he got in any kind of a stressful situation, he was going to panic. And now that I'm older, I can see the full picture of my life and his life and how all the pieces fit together. I realized how much that he was traumatized by the time he was 6 years old.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he wouldn't have frozen at some simple instructions from the teacher. He was also really a mean bully to me, but that wasn't his natural state. He never would have been that way if he hadn't grown up in that same house that I grew up in,
Exactly.
and had the parents that I had. So I always wonder, what would my brother have been like if he had been raised by loving parents? What would I have been like?
Yeah, and
So
for me, it's even more nuanced than that too, right? Because like me being black, like like somebody, like you're saying, a lot of stuff is out of. This is why, in my opinion, why we never have a truly honest conversation about suicide, right? You know what I'm saying? Like it's like these are dice that have been rolled, and we as a society, like this American experiment, we've all not agreed to participate in, right? You know what I'm saying? We just all are in here. We know that there's we all participate
what
in.
do you mean by that? That
But
we're all here, but we all haven't agreed to participate in?
did you choose to be born to your parents in
Oh, I see what you're
America?
saying.
Yeah,
Right.
nobody
Okay.
chose this life. We all didn't agree. Nobody was like, you know what? I'm gonna be American. Now you were born in
Right.
this. You didn't have a choice to be born in America. And some people,
I got you.
some people it's great for them. They're born rich and stuff. But for other people, right? For the people who they weren't born, you know, they didn't hit the lottery when they were born for whatever reason. Family, parents are terrible, saying situations terrible, saying we have decided as a society that, saying that you have to, you have to play the cards you were dealt in life, saying period, and
Hmm.
why I think this is just such a, like if we're going to have a truly honest conversation, like for me, it's just like, with all due respect, you could suck a dick, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't, how can somebody tell me that I need to deal with all the bullshit, saying, whether it be racism, saying, whether it be, like I said, my mom died of HIV. I mean, it's, man, it's, nah, son, you know what I'm saying? I understand that the biggest issue is, yes, all the things are a problem, but you know what I'm saying, if we're not going to address these issues in society, if we're not going to actually
Hmm.
say, okay, some of these issues need to be rectified, saying people need a real actual opportunity, saying more than one fucking chance, saying multiple opportunities to, saying to actually, exceed in life or whatever the fuck you want to call that, right? You know what I'm saying? Then
Right.
I should
Right.
be able to fucking I should be able to opt out of whatever the fuck you want to call this experience, life, existence. You know what I'm saying? I should be able to be like,
Mhm.
I'm good. Look, I fucked up, almost caught a felony. It's left me in a position where I am literally starving every day. You know what I'm saying? I walk 4 I walk 4 hours home for work. You know what I'm saying? At 4 o'clock in the fucking morning. You know what I'm saying? Nah, son, I fucked up. Y'all are right. I fucked up. My life sucks. Can I go now, please? You know what I'm saying? Because this is terrible. You know what I mean? Like, it's straight up.
Mhm.
This is fucked, man. I fucked up. Fair. You know what I'm saying? If there's no way for
Yeah.
me to change this, you know what I'm saying? I want to leave. You know what I'm saying? I'm out. And not only, and
Yeah.
this is how deep it gets for me. I hate the idea of having it. You know what I'm saying? Do it in secret, like, you know what I'm saying? By yourself. All fucking, you know what I'm saying? Depressed and shit. But man, fuck that, man. I want I want y'all to see me. I want y'all to see me off. I want that. Yeah. I want to say bye. I want to hug on you and be like, it's all good. I know it sucks. It hurts, but I asked for the help. You see my eyes. I've been trying. This shit ain't for me. Y'all can keep this slavery shit up if y'all want, but I'm out. You know what I'm saying? Fuck this.
Mhm.
I'm jumping off the boat. Is how I feel. You know what I'm saying? And you can't. And the idea that somebody tell me it'll get better later. It's just a temporary solution to a permanent. Motherfucker, I got out of jail in 2009. It's been 10 fucking years of this. Don't play with me. You know what I'm saying? I know my people. I see people out here dying. Man, don't play with me, bro. I'm stupid. You know what I'm saying? I'm not. We've decided to set the system up as a lottery. It's a lottery if you fucking make it in life. Hopefully you get to not bullshit racist job, racist boss. Hopefully he, pays you a living wage. Hopefully you don't accidentally get in a car wreck and go fucking bankrupt because of the fucking medical system. Hopefully, everything's a goddamn lottery. And I the more I look at it, the more I decide, like you said, I want to opt the fuck out. I'm like on team, there should be, if we don't have a truly honest conversation, if we decide to set up society this way, okay, fine. People should be able to opt the fuck out. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the,
Mm.
or fix some of this shit, or let's just, hold it down. Right. You know what I'm saying? And I
Yeah.
don't know. I get real emotional about it. My bad, bro. I got hype.
No, that's all right. That's all right. No, it's hard to be mad at my brother for committing suicide too when he had talked about it so much so often. He was the bird with the broken wing that just never got off the ground
Yeah.
and ended up, just cycling through depression after depression and never really recovering from that. And he talked about it. Once he actually committed suicide, I remember my mother saying, because he died before my mother did, my mother saying, well, he finally did what he always said he was going to do. And she looked at it like he he did it. He did it. He always wanted to do it, and he did it. And I don't know, there was a little bit of relief for her in
Mm.
that, even as his mother.
Well, I mean, mom knows he was hurt, man. Like I said, like
Yeah.
it's you know, I don't know, like, and that's why you see where I'm so obsessed with the fight of like I don't know, man. My thing is like I don't know, man. I can't. I don't. I just the idea of like I told you we have a little pact, right? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you want to talk about our little pact that we made like it was a year or two ago now. At this point, do you remember? I think about it.
No. If
I
you
think
if you
about it.
remind me, I'll remember. What
Okay, it
was the
was
pact?
7 years. I think we gave me 7 years. I gave us seven. You asked me to give it 7 years, man. I don't know if you remember. It's before because I told you I was I had a serious conversation like, hey, look, Gary,
Mm.
I'm not.
So this is when you were staying at my house because you came up to Austin. Obviously, you didn't have any place to stay. You just left everything behind in
Yeah,
Houston. You came up to Austin. We had an extra room. You stayed with my girlfriend and I at the time in the
yeah,
house that we had. And your depression didn't suddenly lift at all by any means.
yeah, yeah,
You uh, that really didn't happen. You really came into a crisis moment. Um, and can I?
yeah,
Yeah, I wanted to I wanted to take a moment and because I remember when you were there staying with me and you used to come in and out late in the evenings. You were not comfortable with your current headspace, not comfortable staying in this house with this guy that but you don't really know me that well at that point in time. You're not just a lot of confusion around it. And I recognized that you were depressed. I mean, clearly in a
yeah,
very, very low spot. I don't think I've ever seen anybody, I've been around anybody that was so clearly in a desperate situation.
yeah,
And you were in your room one night and I just like trying to figure out how to help. And I remember reading in a book one time, it was a guy that wrote about his own depression and
Yeah.
how many of his friends would come to see him when he had severe depression, like the kind of he can't get out of the house, can't get out of the bed kind of depression, real severe clinical depression, not just the blues I'm talking about. So
I really
real
understand, man.
depression.
Yeah.
And I was seeing, after remembering reading that in that book and seeing your condition at that time, and I was connecting that he said the only person that came to see him that helped him at all was a friend that would come over and rub his feet.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That was just in my head, and I asked you, would it be okay
Yeah.
if I put some lotion on your feet and rub your feet?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
We never talked about this, but
because
what
it
was that
was
like for you?
goddamn awkward. It was what it was, but it was a lot, man. Because like you know, I recognize that, I think I thought about that afterwards, like what it also did for me. Cause, in the moment, it wasn't like I was like, oh, thank you. All, saying it was really awkward, but
Of course, yeah.
it was awkward as
It was
fuck,
awkward
right?
for me too. Just to be
Yeah.
fair, you got some big ass ugly feet.
Yeah. I've
But
been working
at
on
the
them.
time, I'm trying to be sensitive, and
Yeah.
I'm trying to do the only thing I can think of that maybe will make a connection with you. I don't know what I'm
And,
thinking of. It
but
just
so,
seemed like the right thing to do at the time.
but so what it did do for me was like, it just proved that that's some shit where it's like, yeah, this dude obviously cares pretty, a lot, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, and it did make me, I don't know, man. It meant a lot, you know what I'm saying? Like it was on some, like felt like Jesus, you know what I'm saying? Like, right, I don't know if that makes sense. I love Bible
That's
analogies.
a little heavy.
You're right. Yeah, no, dead ass though, right? But I like Bible analogies, and you know what I'm saying? Well, more so like I don't know, like the act of, I don't know, it's just very selfless. It very much humbled me, you know what I'm saying, more so. Does that make sense? Like it was a very humbling kind of experience, like especially afterwards. It was one of those things where it's like, well, well, now, I kind of owe this guy something now, right? You know what I'm saying? Gotta, I what the fuck, you know what I mean? Right? Shit, I hope he doesn't ask for a hand job or something. Shit, you know what I mean? Like, but no, but I don't know if that makes sense though. Seriously, like it was very, it was one of those, like it just, I could tell that the empathy was like you really cared, right, and tried, and was just like, hey, man, it was one of those without saying. It was just like, hey, man, it was more than just saying like genuinely like whatever I can do. It was showing like whatever I can do. I got you. I got your back. If that makes sense, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It was show rather than tell for kind of thing, right? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that
yeah.
makes sense.
Well, it was certainly, people are going to watch our show and they're going to look at the pair, look at us and be like, they're not going to, their brains are not going to understand what they're looking at. Right.
Yeah.
And people are going to make all kinds of assumptions about the nature of our relationship as co-hosts, as friends, as
Yeah.
family, you might say, and they're going to be wrong on almost every count.
Yeah.
But
right.
but we're telling our stories and how our lives have intersected to help fill in some of those gaps truthfully. So
Exactly. Yeah, man, and it was just it was one of those situations. I don't even know if that came before or after the suicide attempt, because I did go to Austin eventually. I went out there and did eventually try to actually,
Yeah.
come in. I don't want to go too deep into it, that one. I guess I can't be, can't I the mental health. I can't get too emotional and manic. You know what I'm saying? Because it's it's hard to bring me
Well,
back.
I can tell this much of it, if you don't mind, that and where it kind of just shifting gears a little bit, because that day, that incident helped me in a profound way make connections to my life and my mother and the way she was raised. It actually, something happened that day that you helped me figure out in my head. And I think that it's worth telling the story just for that alone. Because growing up, my mother smoked. She smoked cigarettes. She smoked a lot. And I hated it. I hated the way it smelled. I cared for my mother. And when in the 70s, all the news was coming out about how bad smoking was for you, lung cancer, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so from a kid who cares about his mother, you don't want to see your mother smoking and killing herself. It's just, there's all kinds of negative associations with it. And I really just grew up just detesting cigarette smoking. I would never smoke myself. No drugs of any kind. Basically, that smoking was just out of the question for me.
Mm.
Okay. But then over time, I'm an adult, I'm gathering information, and I'm starting to hear more things about smoking that are starting to kind of change the way I'm thinking about it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And just a few data points. There was I think it was maybe a Freakonomics episode, a podcast that I heard where they talked about the smoking. And one of the things they said in that podcast was that the common thread that the largest common thread that ties all smokers together is mental illness.
Mm.
And I thought that was really interesting. Like this more than education level, more than socioeconomic situation, more than net worth, as being a
That is
common
interesting.
denominator.
That
Yeah.
is
So
interesting.
it's not money that money or lack of money that ties smokers together. It's actually mental illness, according to this. What I learned listening to this podcast, right? There was also some stories at the time about how stress and anxiety from just being. I think the story that I heard was about how immigrants that were in this country, either illegally or legally, were being traumatized by the atmosphere of mistrust with the government and the fear that they would be deported. This creates in the household that has that fear hanging over their head. This creates a stress that doesn't go away,
Yeah.
which creates anxiety in those people in that household. And that was a factor that was kind of coming into my knowledge base. But the thing that put it all together for me was I got a call from when I was at work. I got a call, and it was it was from a girlfriend that somebody you were seeing at the time that was asking about you. And I you were living in Austin. I mean, you was coming up staying with me, as we told, but I didn't keep track of your every movement. Right? I go to work and I come home and I see you come in and not. And but this day she was really worried about you, so I hung up the phone with her. I called you. You picked up the phone right away.
Yeah.
I could hear in the background that there were police cars around you. So I'm like, where are you? I'm coming to get you.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Because you said, like, I'm not doing so good. And, over the phone, I could tell in your voice. So I left work. You weren't that far away. I found you. And the way this ties together is that you were chain smoking at the time, just one after
Yeah.
another. High stress situation, two cops cars there. One of them was interviewing you, talking to you. They were trying to set up some help for you. Actually, in this case, they were the good guys. The cops in this case
Yeah.
were actually there to help you. Thank goodness, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There was a actual the first person on the scene was like a counselor or like a psychiatrist or something, and then yeah, they came in and backed I don't even know if that was man or woman. It was such a blur. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So
Well, you were smoking like a demon, and
yeah.
I was standing there in front of you. We kind of had a moment to ourselves, and I was like, and I asked you, I said, what is it like when you smoke like that? Like, and you thought about it. You kind of looked up, and you said, I don't know. It's like I inhale, and it's like I'm alive, and that hit me so hard. It just made everything kind of tie together.
Yeah.
That when we talk about nicotine and smoking, this is what was keeping you alive. This was your lifeline back to the earth, because without that remedy, that drug, that compound in your system, you were ready you were ready to leave. You were ready
Yeah.
to leave. So it's cigarettes are a good drug, bad delivery method
Yeah.
because of what comes
Nicotine.
with it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Exactly.
And where it got deep for me is when I started to tie what you said with the information from the articles that I had read and the stuff that I'd heard about. It's not really mental illness, it's anxiety
Hmm.
that is connected to smoking. And then I connected that to my mom and her smoking all those years, and me being angry at her for smoking when I should have been sympathetic to her, because I now know that she was super fucking depressed my whole childhood.
Yeah.
And so, when we get to season 2, we get to season 2, and there'll be some conversations about some of the trauma that I went through,
Hmm.
and we'll kind of paint a big picture. But it's where you and what you have taught me in my life is so important to piecing things together that I maybe never would have pieced together without your inclusion in my life in some really
Yeah.
deep ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, man, it's deep. It's getting heavy. I've been holding back tears this whole time. I'm thugging it though right now. We are making it through. I am. Let's pat on the back real quick on
Yeah,
ourselves.
yeah.
Jesus Christ. Woo, damn. All right, but yeah, no, it's
Well, let's take it a little more universal from here, because I remember that there was a moment when the issue of depression and environment and coping mechanisms all took a big shift for you, and that was when you listened to Johan Hari on the Joe Rogan podcast.
yeah, yeah,
Do you remember the part that stood out for you?
yeah. It was he started talking about how these African doctors would try to their method of curing depression in other countries, and other than the U.S. and what we were doing. It's kind of hard for me to remember exactly. Exactly. So basically, Johan Hari is explaining. I don't know if you remember this. You might remember. You might be able to summarize that story better than I can. At least that portion of the
Well,
podcast.
I'm just remember what you had told me. I heard the podcast because I remember you sent it to me.
Yeah, yeah. So okay.
But there was another part of the podcast that jumped out to me and was a real epiphany to me that I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
But for you, it was the cows curing depression and
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So there
the
was
miner and
yeah, yeah. It's I haven't listened to it in a little while, but so basically, if I'm not mistaken on this particular part of the podcast, um, there was some psychiatrists or counselors that went in, and they were basically trying to teach them, teach these African doctors, like Western,
they were
basically
trying to sell them medicine
something like that. It was not
or
just
something
selling
like that.
yeah, it wasn't just selling the medicine. It was like, like basically like, hey, let me put you all on, how we cure depression on the West, all the, medicines. And so basically they asked them like, how do you all deal with, depression and stuff? And the doctors were these African psychiatrists slash doctors, whatever they were, these PhDs, I think, let's call them that right now. Right.
Sure.
So these African PhDs were like, well, I don't understand what what do you mean by that, right? And they were like, because just bit of a language barrier and all that good stuff, right? So basically, they the Western doctors explain to them what depression, depression, all these things are, and they said, how do you cure that? And they had an example of like, oh, you mean this guy who's a miner, right? And so they went through the story of this there was this African guy who was very depressed. He was a miner. He hated everything about his life, and he went, nothing could help him. He just wanted to die, basically, right? Saying it was really terrible for him, life in general. And when he went to the African psychiatrist, they listened to him. They listened to his problems, kind of went through his life, and was like, okay, this is probably what will help. Saying they understood. He told them that he hated the mines, he hated his life, he hated everything he was doing at the time. And they say, and they're like, well, what would you rather do? And he's like, I don't know, maybe be like on a farm and have some cattle and ranch and land or something. And they were like, okay. So they literally transposed him from the mines, you know what I'm saying? And, I helped get him set up with his own little, with some cows and some land, some cows. And, that was what they called antidepressants, right? Because the doctors
Mhm.
or the Western guys asked them, "What are your antidepressants to deal with this?" And they were like, "Is that what you mean by antidepressant?" Because there was that language barrier. And for Johan Hari, it seemed like it clicked to him, like that was a moment for him to be like, "Oh shit!" And these other Western science like, oh, there's another way to look at the antidepressants. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like there's
Yeah.
the solution to the solution can be directly impacting people's lives versus trying to medicate through the problem, if that may that's
It's all about environment. Basically,
yeah,
is what
exactly.
you change the environment and you start to change everything.
Agreed, man. Yeah, and it was, I don't know, that for me was a real, like, it's something. A lot of times for me, it's I have some. I'm starting to come to some realizations in my mind, and then when you hear especially some smart bitch say it, and you're like, Yeah, exactly. Because in my mind, I've been, I've been, That's kind of where I've been this whole time. I've told you about like, for me, it's the reason why I was so, I still, I'm still on team like, hey, what I'm saying? People, I can't say suicide is never the answer. I don't, I don't subscribe. I don't like living in fantasy. I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't, like you'd have to, it's a hard argument. I'm a hard sell on that idea. And still to this, for the reason of since we have decided, to participate in society, this shit is fucked. You know what I'm saying? And I think people should be able to opt out if, circumstances, all things being equal. If, like I said, like explaining my circumstance, right? You know what I'm saying? I wish somebody would just like, yes, I'm crazy, but also, you know what I'm saying? Like I am a
Yeah.
black man in America, you know what I'm saying? With,
Yeah.
the felony, I can't, not only can I can't get shit in my name. I can't drive shit. I can't even rent a fucking car. You know what I'm saying? It's hard out here, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, like fuck hard. It's borderline impossible, because of my mental health issues. I really should be, trying to get my shit together by myself, right? But I don't have that ability. I'm kind of forced into these codependent, toxic relationships because I can't even get an apartment in my own goddamn name, right? You know what I'm saying? So you get what I mean? So there are these extraneous circumstances surrounding, and I'm just like, yo, if there's no way to solve these issues, then fuck this. I don't know what else to, it's my life. I should be able to say fuck all this shit. I'm out. I'm good.
Yeah.
Peace out. Much love. You know what I'm saying? Maybe next
Right.
time. I don't fucking know. I don't know. I get
Yeah.
I get real passionate about it.
Yeah. No, definitely. I will just put my vote on Glad You're Alive.
Yeah.
Very,
No, for
very
sure.
happy that very happy you're in my life, and that you made it through a really dark time.
Yeah.
And I hope that anybody who might watch this show and hear our stories and think about their own lives and connect some dots between what we're saying about environment being the key to mental health in many ways. It's complicated and nuanced, and there's lots more to it, right?
Yeah.
But that's certainly a big piece.
Very,
And
very
that,
big piece. Yeah, man. There's been multiple studies coming out that, a lot of, uh, just living in America, black people feel anxiety, and I can attest to that deeply. I don't even like, especially since moving out here in Austin, like, there's a lot, well, in the neighborhood I'm in now is great, but, a lot of times in, predominantly white areas, yeah, I get all kinds of anxiety walking through, you know what I'm saying? Or just,
right.
yeah, it's
Right.
really rough, so yeah, environment's very important, I think, too, man.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, and that we want to plug really hard that Johan Hari interview
Yeah.
on Joe Rogan. It is we wrote it down. It was,
You wrote it down. You're killing
I
the
wrote it
show notes
down.
shit. Yeah.
It was Joe Rogan podcast number 1077.
Hell
So
yeah.
Joe Rogan conversation with Johan Hari, number 1077. Because I remember you sent that to me. You really
Yeah.
you saw it and liked it, and you sent it to me. The thing from that podcast that I remember the most was the story about Portugal
Hmm.
and what the situation in Portugal. Their drugs were illegal. All drugs were illegal in Portugal, and they had a huge drug problem, especially heroin was a huge problem in Portugal. And as Johan Hari, I'm just going to kind of recap what he said. He said that the leadership in Portugal was trying to find some solutions to this out of control epidemic of heroin users, and they had tried everything they thought was the right thing to do and were failing. So they called together a commission of like all the smartest, brightest people they could
Yeah.
find in Portugal to come together and have a meeting. And basically the prime minister was like, whatever you tell us, we're going to do it. You help us fix this problem. We're going to do it. We're going to get behind you. You just figure it out. Tell us we're on board no matter what it is. So that commission comes back and they say, well, okay, we'll legalize everything, give heroin away free to people. And they start listing out these things they want to do. We're going to give support. We're going to help people, give them a little bit more of a safety net. We're going to start to change their environment little by little by little.
Change the gas stations into heroin stations. Yeah, I know. I like it. I like where they're at. Yeah.
Yeah, well, what they found was that the problem did not get worse. In fact, it got better. It got a lot better, because they were giving those heroin addicts the cow and taking them out of the mine. They were doing it slowly and in a deliberate way and a smart way. But once they had focused their attention from away from punishing and away from
Yeah.
prohibition to helping people, it started to change everything.
Exactly.
And that was part of that podcast also that really
Yeah.
stood out to me.
And
So
and that kind of that goes back to, like, just, dovetails perfect with the idea of, like, I'm very adamant about the whole, second chances, third chances, fourth chances, kind of, with people. I think people are nuanced. Some people make it a little later, understand. I think we just lack a lot of empathy. People like to kind of look at people and be like, "Oh, that's a trash human being," and they just keep trash people out of your life. And as a trash some bitch, as a self-described, very proud of, the person I am now, at least, not all the shit I did, but, I am a piece of shit human being, and I damn dare somebody to try and tell me something different, and it gives me a lot of empathy for those other trash human beings that it's like, hey, you're not, you're not, it's this life is nuanced, right? It's not, I'm trying, everybody's trash to somebody, right? And it's not, like the idea of people, like, one of the things I hate most is people, calling themselves a good person, or like people like to think that they're a good person. It's very arrogant to say you're a good person, because that's not up to you to decide. If you're a good person,
yeah,
it's more, that's other people's decision to say. You may think you're good. What about that ex you fucked over, right? You're a good person to her,
yeah.
probably not, right? And that's, I have a lot of situations like that personally, right? So I like to, I prefer having empathy for people, understanding that, we're malleable, man. It's like, incentivize people to do better instead of punishing when they're doing, worse. And, I think that,
No, in all the things, having a cosigner in your life, having support in your life,
yeah, very
having
important.
the proper validation for being who you are,
Yeah.
all those
Being allowed to
things,
just be who you are,
being
Not,
allowed to be who you are.
yeah, yeah,
That's
all
right.
those,
That's right.
yeah, all those things all matter deeply, man. And, I think people, there's a lot of, like we're talking about, trauma and issues that come from all that kind of stuff, especially, in my community, all the code switching leads to, all these, like there's trauma, and, there's kind of, black people, kind of watching black people, trying to keep them to account. And if you see, this black person sees this black person acting crazy, they're like, oh, that's not one of us, he's one of the bad ones, I'm one of the good. There's that whole dichotomy, and
Yeah.
that's due to,
Yeah.
all the anxiety, and that's, there's just all the trauma, all the environment, right? That's due to the environmental pressures, like those environmental
Yeah.
pressures, just, it's like a pressure cooker, and it's just fucking,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, one thing I think is very important to point out, and we try to bring this to light every time it comes up in our show, because I think it comes up a lot, and that's this notion of having been on two different sides of a coin, or two different sides of an issue, two different ends of a spectrum.
Yeah,
And when you say I'm a piece of shit or whatever, that's you have been a piece of shit.
big time.
But redemption and having those second chances and finding your way and finding a finding your way into an environment where suddenly being a piece of shit doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Hmm.
Being you, you changing everything, growing with the moment,
Hmm.
growing into the moment and growing with the moment can is what you have done, what I've seen you've done, to come over on the other side of, I mean, you were a freaking criminal. you were
Yeah.
you're a
Yeah.
gangster. You're a piece of
Damn,
shit.
it was a
But
damn good
it,
one too. God damn it. I was
hell yeah.
yeah.
But those are
Yeah.
days that you look back on, and
Yeah.
you put them in their box, and you're like, that's not who I am now.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
And yeah,
and that can be true for anybody else that we have in our lives. We can look at them and we can think they're not doing so good now, but we can look at plenty of examples of people that have evolved and changed. I certainly have. From 2021 to 2020, I've gone through a bunch of stuff that has
yeah.
really shifted
And
who
the
I
big thing,
am and my ability
exactly.
to relate and feel. So changes are available to people.
Exactly. And I think and I know it's a lot more nuanced and hard, because everybody likes to, like, we like to, see what, cover our own asses, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's a very, reactionary thing to be like, oh, well, my life, I got a lot going on. I can't do this. I can't do that. And for me, like, looking back at that and understanding, like, it's like, like I said, that's where it goes back into the suicide, topic. Right, this is full circle, damn near spectrum. It's like a sphere when you look at that. All these things just bump up against each other because it's like if you agree, if you have a family member that's fucking up, and I say you do not abandon that person, they will be all right one day, and they will be a lot more all right, much quicker if you actually hold it down for them. I'm not saying enable anybody, holding people's feet to the fire and shit, but don't just abandon them, throw them to the wolves, let them out in the street, whatever, right? You cannot be mad, or don't be sad if the person decides to take their own lives, or as a victim in the streets. You can't be like, it's what the fuck else did you expect? Kind of how I look at it, as somebody who's been in that situation. Like there's I'm gonna use an example. I'm gonna use one of the homies. I'm not gonna use his name because I don't know if he wants his business out there, but I had a homie stay with me, right? And this homie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I had a homie stay with me, and at the time, I was managing a place, and he would work. I met him he was working for me at this place, and he needed a place to stay, and I had an immediate crisis of consciousness because I'm crazy. At this time I already know this is just a couple years ago, so I'm very cautious of my mental health, and cautious I'm very cautious of letting people in my space, so I don't because
you're protective. You want to protect.
Them and me, right?
And others.
Yeah, exactly. I'll whoop your but yeah, what I'm saying. So but for real though, that's really what it is. I know I spaz. I don't know if it's better to say I spaz, and I don't like it's a terrible feeling.
I've seen you spaz.
Yeah,
he spazzes to everybody. He spazzes.
Yeah, it's pretty serious, right? But I had to have a coming. I had to look at the situation, and I was, what I did was I put myself in his shoes. I've been there. Had to live with people. What would I want somebody to do? I'm in a position now for what would I have wanted somebody to do for me in this exact same position. So I thought about it, and I was like, what would have been dope if somebody could have done for me? They're already paying their goddamn bills. You don't need me, to pay rent. So if you could, because I agree, life's hard out here, make me pay rent, but hold on to that rent money, so that way when you eventually kick me out on my ass, which is gonna happen, or just something, possibly to happen, whatever. Sometimes I might not be able to get the money in time, maybe not responsible and reliable enough, right? Maybe there are people like it's hard for somebody who's never been consistent. You can't expect that person to immediately get consistent and get real badass and all that. It's not going to happen. They're going to fuck up, and maybe if they start saving money, have a little more money than they ever expected to, might start spending it fucked up. So what would I want somebody to do for me in that situation? I did exactly that for him. What I did was I held on to his money, right? And I made him pay rent. Right. It wasn't necessarily rent. But I just hold on to that. It was more like, okay, I'm going to save some of your money for you until we can't do this anymore. Until
I kick you out.
Until I kick you the fuck out. Exactly.
Yeah. Basically you had learned from your past experiences and what would have helped you. And
exactly.
Now you're in this situation and you're like, let me try this out.
Yeah, and it worked.
Try out this little scheme, and it worked.
Worked like a charm, because what it is like I said, I already was paying my goddamn bills. It wasn't like I needed his money, right? When he moved in. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna hold on to his money for him. I didn't touch it. Just leave it there to the side. It doesn't exist, right? In my mind, he doesn't need to know it exists. It doesn't matter, right? And then when it's time for him to leave, now at this point, there's a lot of times people think it's just, this person isn't saving, but it's hard being poor. It's expensive being poor. Just Google that saying. It's expensive being poor. Google that. Fucking get a lot of information from it, from right off the bat, but it's not easy, especially not having a car. You got to pay for the Ubers and shit like that. So at the time I had a car, because I've had cars. I've never had a license, had 3-4 cars at this point, right? And but so I'm telling him
emergency
hey, exactly, just in case I need to go do something. Usually I walk the fuck anywhere, but sometimes you got to get somewhere quick, right? So that's the only reason they sit in the driveway. Fucking, they just sit there. All right, anyway, so the car's just sitting there. I'm sorry, it's hard sometimes, right? But this car's sitting in the driveway, and I'm like, bro, he has a license. I'm like, you can drive this car like it's yours. Just please be respectful that it's not yours. Just to treat it. You can drive it like it's yours, but it's not. So, you know what I'm saying?
Just so we both know.
So we understand that. Yeah, nigga, don't play, right? So, but it was all love, right? I want to treat him like I wanted to be treated, like a fucking adult, somebody who's not a piece of shit. And it's like, get your shit together. And in case you don't, I got some, you don't even need to know about this little backup plan I got over here for you. But just in case, like I said, what if something was left? I have something, it's like, hey, and what I did with them, by the end of it, we saved up up, nice little amount for him for real. It was like, I think it was like,
1,200 or something.
it was like, it was like, yeah, it was like 1,600, something like that. Some,
1,600,
yeah, he had more saved up than I did at the time. You know what I'm saying? He had quicker, he had a bigger savings than I did right then, right? So I gave him his money, but I was like, you can get a, down payment on with this, you can do a down payment on an apartment. It wasn't like you got to leave the same day. It was like, hey, this is what I saved up for you. You got, maybe a week or so. Let me know what you need to do. You can get a car, down payment on an apartment, whatever you need to do, but you do got to leave at this point now though, right? But he didn't leave empty handed, right? Was the thing, right? You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like a whole empty. I wasn't throwing him out on his ass. That's usually what happens. You get to a point, like I've been in situations.
You know what it made me think of? It made me think of a little the situation like what Kirk helped you out when you got out of jail. It's like, we're gonna get you. We're not
real
gonna
chance.
leave you.
Yeah,
we're gonna give you a chance.
A real opportunity. Yeah, a real opportunity. Like, and it's nothing like a big opportunity, but it was just like, it was real, tangible help. It was actual help. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how to explain it other than that. It's not like, not help with, saying these weird ass qualifiers. Like, you got to do everything I say when I say it. And if you fuck up once, then there's no more help. It wasn't this weird. Like, that's what's always happened to me. And that's what I've always gotten. It's like, you got to do everything I say the way I say it. You can't do anything that I don't like, and it's just like, well, fuck you too then. You know what I'm saying? Like, like, again, I'm not your fucking slave. I'm jumping off the boat. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's where I keep going to in my mind. Cause it's like, no, that's not even realistic. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not even a realistic request. I'm a human being, right? And that's, I treated him just like that. Still my boy, you know what I'm saying? It's much love there. You know what I'm saying? It worked out. He's doing, shout out to the homie, right?
Yeah,
He's doing good.
Yeah, he's doing well.
Yeah, he's doing well now, cause and it was just like, all you just needed was an opportunity, bro. And I get, like, I know my niggas, man. Niggas will shine if you got an opportunity, right? You know what I'm saying? It was just like, treat him like a regular ass person. Like, he's gonna fuck. He while he stayed when he fucked up a few times the car and everything. I didn't immediately was like, you can't drive the car ever again. I was like, say, son, look, you know what I mean? You can't be fucking up, you know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. We got to get this right, you know what I'm saying? And, he was like, yeah, my bad, kept it going, right? You know what I'm saying? He wasn't perfect, but, like I said, give people wiggle room to be people, you know what I mean? I don't know.
We got, Maya just got up from her nap.
Yeah.
Oh, what is there like a, hey, Maya.
You should pick her up for a second.
Maya, we're recording. Do what?
Pick her up for a second.
Pick her up for a second?
Yeah.
Come here, Maya.
Yeah, we're going through dog difficulties over here. Yeah.
There's Maya. I don't know if she saw a little moth or something like that.
That's definitely what it was. Yeah, that's definitely what it was.
Shoot. Can we pause for a second?
And we are.
And we're back.
Hell yeah.
So the anxiety that you still live with every day is better in my mind, and we're season 2, we're going to dive into a little bit more of ways to deal with mental illness and trauma. Mm-hmm. And we should also, the suicide hotline. I know you've called the suicide hotline before.
I got them on speed dial, dead ass. I have them. They're saved in my phone. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get on there and talk to random people. It's not funny, but
no, it's it's a lifeline for some people that find themselves in really dark places. So anxiety today, though, what are your thoughts on it? How do you feel? How are you feeling your mental health is today?
I'm in a much better place, and like I've told you, it's all about the opportunity and support systems, right? It's for me, the reason why I'm in a much better position is because the support system I have versus, like I told you before, when I was thrown to the wolves, right? You know what I'm saying? And even, and a lot of it, don't get me wrong, like I have family that's, be like, oh, you should have hit me up. It's, it's harder. It's different. People understand. It's different with family because, there's a safe face there. I don't, you don't want to be that guy, that family member that, what I'm saying? Like, I'm already the fuck up family member. You know what I'm saying? I don't want, does that make sense? It's already there.
You don't want to throw it in their face.
Yeah, exactly. I don't, it's like the suicidal, gang banging, you know what I'm saying? This, this nigga here, right? It's like, it's just, I don't, and that's not how they feel about it for sure, but it's how I feel about it, right? It's hard to deal with, like, I don't want to burden people you care about.
It gets complicated. It gets complicated really quickly too.
So if there's people in your life, like a lot of times, like And that's why I think family a lot of times will be sometimes the last people to learn. You know, they'll just be like, it just can't. It seems like it came out the blue for them, and they don't understand why this person didn't reach out more and this that. And like I said, it's more so of a safe face. Like you don't want to. You know, it's hard. It's hard to, you know, this it's just it's taboo. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't want to seem like you're just bitching or none of that. And you know, you really want to be understood, but you really need help. And it's just, you know what I'm saying? It gets real complicated, you know? So I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. Well, I know that you and I talk a lot about trauma, and that we carry a different type of trauma. Yours is
Mm.
more dysregulated, where you have big highs and lows and sharp triggers. My trauma that I carried for so many years was just took my feelings and buried them. Uh, I almost dropped a tear earlier in the episode. That is something that, I in the years that I carried that trauma. And season 2, we're going to talk a little bit about ways to deal with it and things that have been successful for me. But I never before going through some of the therapies that I did in 2020, I never
Yeah.
would have been able to access a tear to save my life. My feelings were just not there. I was operating just on
Yeah.
something was telling me something. I'm connecting dots, um, connecting you with my brother and being able to help you where I failed to connect my brother. I mean, all
Mm.
these little things are just how I'm operating, but I'm never actually feeling this. I can feel so much more today, and I'm glad about that. And
Yeah, man.
it's
No,
it's
that's real, man.
and I, yeah, and I see that you're in a much different place than you today than you were those 5 years ago when it was just a very different time.
Yeah, man.
So we should probably wrap up episode 6 and let people know when you talk about support systems at Marty and the Bro, the co-op, we have an opportunity for members from our audience to join the co-op and become part of the company, and at the same time sign up as a co-signer. So the way this would work in reality is when you join the co-op with whatever dollar amount you do, if you end that dollar amount in a 5, we will know that you are wanting to participate in our co-signer program. And that means that we are trying to match up people who want to join the co-op, but it makes no financial sense for them to do so just because of their financial situation. They've got a way to join the co-op by being matched up with a co-signer. So
Yeah.
we'll talk more about that probably separately. Look for a separate individual segments that we talk about the co-signer program. But um,
Also, we'll have
it's
links in the
part of,
description. Be links
yeah,
down below.
links, martinthebroad.com. So thank you so much for listening to this episode about the damage that's done when we don't pay close attention to trauma and anxiety and just let it carry forward without a remedy year
Hmm.
after year. It creates lots of problems for people.
Yeah, man. This was a rough
Well,
one for me.
much love to you, Marty. I appreciate doing the show with you very much, and I'm glad
Yeah.
you are alive today. Thank you so much for being a part of my life.
Same here. I appreciate you being a part of my life. You know, being alive. It's you know, I'm still the jury's still out. You know, for me. Yeah. But
I hear you.
yeah,
I
you
hear
know,
you.
I'm rocking so far. So yeah, we're gonna keep it going. You know.
It's good to see. All right.
Yeah. All
You
right.
take
Bro.
care, man.
Love you, death, brother. All right.
Love you too.
Yo, you like what you just saw? Make sure you like, share, subscribe so the algorithms can algorithm or whatever sorcery they do. Follow us on our socials, links all down in the description, and let's keep rocking.